Well, first of all, welcome to Psychology 140, Developmental Psychology. I'm Alison Gopnik. I'm the teacher for this course. And the real teachers for the course are going to be your GSIs. And let me introduce them as well. Karen Walker, can you stand up, Karen? Daniel Trail, and Andrea Ercato. So you should have a syllabus for the course. It's actually posted online on bSpace, and everyone who's actually in the course should have gotten a notification and a link to that. So rather than handing it out as pieces of paper, I'll just go over it on the PowerPoint. But just a few technical things first. In terms of enrollment, there should be enough room for everybody in the waitlist to actually get into the class. So you should just be automatically entered into the class in the course of this week. So you don't have to do anything special about enrolling. But we don't have room for more people than the people who are already enrolled or on the waitlist. So if you're not already enrolled or on the waitlist, then we don't have enough room to add you into the class. As it is, we're going to be just about pushing the limits of how many people can fit into this room. So nothing to worry about with the waitlist. One thing that you should worry about, though, is that you have to sign up for the sections as well as signing up for the lectures. And probably, if you're on the waitlist, it's because you signed up for a section that was too full. So the sections all have limits of 25 students in them. The Friday morning sections, surprise, don't have very many people enrolled. So what I would suggest is that you enroll in one of the Friday sections. And on Fairfax, you should be able to see which sections are actually available and which sections aren't available. So what you really need to do is make sure that there's space in a section that you can enroll in if you're on the waiting list. And if you want to make a private arrangement to swap a section with someone else who you can find who wants to be in the other section, that's fine. Just go ahead and do it and tell the GSIs and tell the instructors. Okay, are there any other questions with that? Okay, so let me go through the syllabus. As I say, this is all available on bSpace, so you can't quite see it. This is mostly a memoir for me. So I'm Alison Gopnik, and I'll have office hours 2 to 3:30 starting February 4th because we have a job candidate coming in next week. The best way to get in touch with me is either to leave a message on my phone, which is there, or else to actually come to my office hours. Email is generally not a good way of getting in touch with me because independently of class, I get probably 100 emails a day. So what I would suggest is if you want to use email, then you should say 140 on it, and I'll check those emails maybe once a week or so. So you're better off leaving a phone message or showing up in office hours because otherwise there's 200 people in the class and it's just going to be literally impossible for me to answer all the emails. It's impossible for me to answer all the emails anyway. But do please take advantage of office hours, and if you leave a message, then I'll be sure to get back in touch with you. The GSIs, their office hours and rooms are on the list here. Actually, for Karen Walker, her office hours are going to be in Tolman 122. Okay. Got left off the syllabus. Yeah, so they'll also be having office hours, and I strongly advise that you come and talk to them during their office hours, and there's contact information for them there as well. We have 2 textbooks for the class. The first one is Siegler, Deloche, and Eisenberg, How Children Develop. That's the 3rd edition, and that's been used in several sections of the class already, so you should be able to find a used copy available online or in the bookstores. And I apologize for the cost of the textbook. This is an incredibly frustrating business of textbook manufacturers ripping off universities, basically. But you should be able to find second-hand copies of it, and that should help with the text. And we'll make sure that a copy of the text is available in the library as well. That's not the best way of being able to use the text, and we will be using the text for some of the exams and so forth. So the best thing is if you can try and find a second-hand copy. Yeah?
I found that there's a website called check.com and Amazon.com. They have very good prices on used copies.
Great.
Usually they're half of what the university charges.
Yeah.
A little cost concern.
Yeah, exactly. You should, as I say, you should be able, between Amazon and other places, you should be able to find a used copy of the book. And as long as you have the 3rd edition, you'll be fine. The 3rd edition's been around for a while, so if that's a concern, you should be able to get a better deal on. On the other hand, the other textbook, which is my book, The Scientist in the Crib, I think it's $10 on Amazon. So at least in terms of insight per dollar, you're doing much better by reading The Scientist in the Crib. And The Scientist in the Crib is designed to be a book for general readers. So unlike textbooks, this is actually a book for people who have to choose whether to read the book. So it's designed to be, I hope, witty and engaging and readable, and something that you might actually enjoy reading just for the sake of reading it, as well as having a lot of the same kind of material we're going to talk about in the class. The material in the lectures and the sections are not simply going to follow the textbook. So you'll need to have access to both the textbook, the 2 textbooks, and the lectures and the sections if you want to follow the material in the class. So we're not going to just run through the same material as is in the textbook. It'll be coordinated with the textbook, but a lot of material is actually going to be different. However, so that's the difficult news, but there's a podcast and a screencast of this class. So you should be able to check up on the lectures or go back and see what's happening in the lectures using either the podcast or the screencast if you can't actually come to one of the lectures yourself. One thing that I'm going to institute in the lectures this year stems from the fact that I've been arguing for a long time that it's a little odd that when we actually are trying to teach people about learning, which is what we're doing very largely in this class, we don't actually use the things that we know about learning to inform the way that we teach people. So basically, the format of a lecture is literally a medieval format. It comes from the days when there was only one book, so the professor had to stand in the front and read out of the book for the student because printing hadn't yet been invented, and that was the only way to actually get the information across. And we've gotten a little more sophisticated since then, but not very much. So one of the things that we know about learning is what's called the self-explanation effect, and we're actually going to talk about that later on, and it's actually something that we've been studying in my very own lab. And essentially, the self-explanation effect is that if you get someone to explain something to themselves or to someone else, they understand it much better than if they just get the information. And one of the things we're studying is why that would be. It seems kind of mysterious. Why is it that just explaining something helps you to understand it in a really deep way, even if you're just explaining it to yourself? So one of the things that I'm going to do in lectures this year is to have 2 explanation breaks, which will be moments in the lecture when people will turn to the person next to them and for 5 minutes explain something that we've just been talking about in the lecture. And that should wake everybody up and distract them from reading their email. And this is one where we can kind of guarantee you, studies show, it's scientifically proven that engaging in this enterprise will help you to understand the material better. And that will also be a reason for coming to class as opposed to just listening to the podcast. So we can think of this as being a kind of natural experiment. We'll see whether the people who engage in the explanations actually do better than the people who don't. That's certainly what the science would tell us. Another odd finding that's come out of the literature about learning, which is, I find, slightly depressing, but which seems to be very accurate, is that actually taking tests is a good way of learning. It's probably not a very good way of evaluating whether people have learned or not. So how well people do on tests isn't necessarily a really good way of testing whether they know things. But the actual activity of taking a test actually seems to really help people to learn. And the theory is that the reason why this is true is because retrieving information, actually having to take the information that's back there in the back of your head and calling it up to your short-term memory seems to be really important for consolidating information. So maybe the explanation and tests are kind of doing the same thing. So even though in many respects I think things like multiple choice tests are aesthetically despicable, they actually seem to be a good method. Taking one of those tests is a good way of consolidating the information that you've learned. So I don't want to put people in a position where we're evaluating people based on those multiple choice tests, but the tests are a really good way of consolidating what you've learned. The other important thing that we know is that participating in the sections in a small group, in an active way, without lectures, is a much better way of learning than any other way of learning. So we're sort of trying to kill two birds with one stone here. What we're going to do is we're going to have quizzes that will be 5 multiple choice quizzes in the sections, and that's going to count for part of your grade. Those quizzes are just going to be pass-fail. They're going to be either you get 3 out of 5 or you don't get 3 out of 5 of them right. And they'll be relatively simple questions that are just based on material in the textbook. But the quizzes are there for two purposes. One of them is to get your butts into the section, and the other one is to force you to retrieve some of the material that you've been reading in the course of the week. So they're not going to count for very much for final grade, but they'll end up being 10% or so of the final grade. So that's going to be another innovation that we're doing this year. We'll see how that works. Another thing is the real reason for being in those sections is, as I say, because that gives you a chance to have some Socratic dialogue, to engage with your peers, to engage with the GSRs, to actually learn in some of the ways that, say, the children who are going to study are learning best. And we're going to have a kind of bonus point system for participation in the sections. So people who participate and engage a lot in the sections will get a couple of bonus points that will be on the grade sheet, and those will get counted into your final grade. So we're not going to have a percentage that's sort of a participation grade that you'll get either positive or negative, but you'll get some extra grading as a result of participating in the sections, which is a real good thing to do. Okay. I'll emphasize that the sections are not going to be lectures. They'll be activities of one sort or another that are actually going to be engaging to the students in the class. The exam format, again, is trying to get a kind of balance between what we need to do to evaluate you and what I think is actually best in terms of your really mastering material. So the way that they'll work is that there'll be 15 multiple choice questions again, which will basically be, were you alive and breathing, and did you read the textbook, and did you show up for the lectures? So essentially, if you're alive and breathing, you should be able to, and your eyes make contact with the textbook, you should be able to do fine on those multiple choice questions. The real heart of the exam is the essay questions. And the way that that will work is that you'll get 5 questions a week in advance, and 3 of them will be on the exam. So you'll have a whole week to prepare the answers to those questions. The exam itself will be closed book, but you'll have lots of time to actually write the answers to those questions. So there shouldn't be any issue about kind of coming to the class and desperately trying to remember things. You should already have that completely worked out. And the essay questions are typically questions that I don't know the answer to, and nobody knows the answer to, which can come as a bit of a shock. And the reason for that is that, at least in psychology, something like 80% of the stuff that we're going to talk about in lectures, 30 years from now, is going to turn out not to be true. Now that sounds really depressing, like you might think, why am I here if that's true? But that's science. I mean, that's what makes it science, is that our ideas about, especially a new field like how the mind works, are really changing and developing all the time. And what we would have done 30 years ago looks totally different from what we would do now, and it's a pretty fair bet that it'll look totally different 30 years from now. What isn't different is the way that we do science, the way that we answer questions, the way that evidence and experiments tell on questions. So the essays are designed to do that kind of thing, to call out those kinds of abilities, to say things like, if you wanted to answer this question, what kind of experiments would you do? Or if you found this pattern of experimental results, what would it tell you about this question? And you should be thinking that way all the way through the class, rather than thinking, there's a bunch of things that a bunch of scientists found out that are facts, and then I'm going to write them down, and then I'll know all the facts that I need to. So that's going to be the structure of the essay question. And that may be a little different from what you're used to in other classes, but hopefully it will be more challenging and more interesting, and you'll have lots and lots of time to prepare it. A lot of times what people have done in this class is to have study groups that get together and work on questions together. Working with other people is a really good idea. What you probably don't want to do is just have each person do an answer and then all 5 people copy the answers, because we're going to be grading it, so we'll know if that's happening. But I highly recommend having people get together and work in pairs or groups to try to answer questions. Then the midterm and the final are going to have exactly the same format, so by the time the final comes, you should have a really good idea of what's going to happen based on the midterm. One more thing about the final is that it's scheduled for Tuesday, May 14th. Write that down in your calendar right now. We can't change it. We can't do make-up exams for the final. That day is really set in stone. And often that's a time when people are, getting married and going to Europe and having final championship games and 7 to 10 p.m. Yeah. It's very unlikely to go for the full 3 hours, but that's the 3 hours that are actually assigned to you. So do please put a big red mark on that date right now and make sure that you don't get married on May 14th. Or if you do get married, then get married in the morning and then come and take the exam in the evening. And then you'll have your wedding night to look forward to after the exam. Just think of it that way. Okay, the other part of the evaluation, so that's the exams. The part that's really going to be fun and the most informative is the project. And the way the project works is that you'll have a videotape to look at of just a child functioning and running around in their everyday life and everyday environment. And your job will be to try to analyze what it is that child is doing. And one of the things that's really great about developmental psychology is that you can take practically any child more or less at random, and if you actually just pay attention for 20 minutes to what that child is doing, what that child is like, what that child is the way the child is acting, you will see amazing things. You'll see that that child is doing things that you would never have thought of before that seem really, really weird on the surface, but are really, really interesting. So that project of just looking at the spontaneous behavior that an everyday child is doing and trying to analyze it in terms of what we've understood in the class is really a central idea in developmental psychology. And the way the project is going to work is that there'll be 2 drafts, and again, this is taken from some of the science of learning. The science of learning says that when it comes to things like writing, the overwhelming predictor of how good a writing essay is going to be is how many drafts you do of that essay. So even if nobody else gives you any feedback, just the fact that you do a draft and then you revise it yourself, studies show, will make that project better. When I'm actually writing my popular books, which require a lot of serious writing, I counted once on my computer, and I probably do 50 to 60 drafts in every chapter, sort of minimum. That's what you really need to be able to do something that ends up being really well written. The famous economist J.K. Galbraith said, I generally get that spontaneous note that my critics like so much between the 48th and 49th draft. So I can't get you to do 60 drafts in the course of this class, but at least you'll do 2. So at April 10th, you'll do a first draft of this project analysis, and that's going to be worth 10% of the final grade of the project. And then in sections, you'll do an editing exercise where you'll swap papers, and then another person will give you feedback, and vice versa. You'll give them feedback, and then you'll go home and you'll revise it yourself until you do the final draft. And you'll have to hand in both the first draft and the final draft, and the final grade will be based on both the first draft and the final draft. Okay, is that clear to everybody? So again, trying to encourage you to do multiple versions, multiple drafts. No, the videotape will be provided, so we'll actually have a videotape for you to look at. And finally, the RPP pool participation is going to count for 5% of the grade, and you just heard all about that from the RPP representative. Okay, any questions about any of that, about the evaluation or the exams? Anything else? Okay. So let me give you the course outline. Basically, what we're going to be doing is following the outline of the textbook, but the textbook and the schedule don't quite completely fit together. So we're not going to do chapters 8 and 16, and we're going to do chapters 12 and 13 in one session. And you'll see that for the beginning, we're going to be using chapters from The Scientist in the Crib for the whole first section of the class, as well as chapters in the book. I disagree with the book about some things, and since I get to teach the class, I get to have the final say on what the truth is, at least for the next 13 weeks. So I'll try to flag when I disagree with the things that the textbook is saying, and that's just kind of inevitable, given that people are going to have different takes on what's going on. So that's another reason why you should be paying attention, making sure that you get the material from the lectures as well as from the text. And then the other thing is that each of the JSIs is going to give a guest lecture on something that they know about really well. So that will be a credential lecture, and for you to get a break from listening to me as well. And what we're going to be doing is essentially covering development from pre-birth up to adolescence, although we're not going to really talk about adolescence in this class. So we're really going from pre-birth up to the beginning of adolescence. That's the structure. And the course is organized topically, so that the textbook is organized topically. So first we're going to talk about cognitive development, we'll talk about biology, we'll talk about cognitive development, and then we're going to talk about social development. And we're going to go through each of these topics and talk about how children are developing across each of those topics. Okay, any other questions about the... Yeah.
I was wondering, what's an example of something that you disagree with in the book? Just because I'm curious how...
Right. A lot of the disagreements I have with the book are, it's kind of funny because I actually know the people who wrote the book, and I talked to them about this. A lot of it has to do with the theory sections, and in psychology it's very tricky because it's not always really clear what the different theories really are and how you should delineate them, which theories kind of get collapsed to be the same thing, and which theories are really different. So a lot of people who make theoretical claims in psychology will differ from one another on different kinds of dimensions, and the way that they carve up what the various kinds of theoretical approaches are is different from the way that I would carve up what the various theoretical approaches are. So that is an example of something. And I don't think it's their fault. You have to make those divisions somehow, and they decided to do it in a way that I don't think is the most helpful way for really understanding what's going on. So, and then there's a couple of things in the book where they'll say this experiment shows a particular thing, and I think that the experiment doesn't really show what they say that it shows, or vice versa. So one of the other things that you'll see is a big issue in developmental psychology is how can we tell when an experiment is really telling us what we think? Because what we're doing is looking at what children are doing or looking at or saying, and then we have to try and draw conclusions about what's going on inside their heads. And a lot of times, it can be debatable about what conclusions should we draw about what's going on inside their heads from this particular piece of data, and people have different views about that. And that kind of debate is something I'm going to emphasize a lot in the class. That there's this really hard, interesting problem in developmental psychology, which is you see a little 3-year-old do something, and then you try to figure out what's going on inside their mind or head or brain that's making them do that. And that's one of the biggest challenges in developmental psychology. And by the way, this is not just this textbook. I think any textbook and any instructor, you get differences in the view of what's going on between the instructor and the textbook. I don't think I would argue too much with the books that I write myself, but I might. If you got me, if you got me on the right day, I might actually find some real problems with things that are written in my own books. Okay, so that should be all the technical stuff. Are there any other questions about the procedures or the course content or any of that? Yeah. Oh, sorry. No. Well, the essays will be cumulative. The multiple choice won't be. Was there another question? Yeah. Yeah, I'll be posting my slides online. Probably not. The people like to have the slides in advance, but since I'm usually working on the slides as I'm thinking about what to do in the class, I'll at least have them posted afterwards. I'll try to have them posted in advance if we can get them posted in advance. But I'd like to spend the hour or two before the lecture thinking about what to say and how to say it. So sometimes I'll change things and modify things just before the lecture itself. Yeah. Yes, they are. Okay. Oh, and we have a BSpace. We have a BSpace site for the course, so the slides will be posted on the BSpace. But I'll be trying to use some videos and other kinds of material that won't be as easily postable. So there'll be some differences between the slides I can post on the site and the things we'll do in class. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
What's your favorite part of this course?
In terms of the content?
Yeah.
Well, I study cognitive development, so you'll see that invariably I think all of us kind of like the perks that, the reason why we do the work that we do is because we think it's the most fascinating, terrific, wonderful thing that you could possibly ever do. So I actually think that studying how 2, 3, and 4-year-olds figure out the causal structure of the world is just, there's just nothing else that you could do that is as interesting or as deep or as profound or as smart or as cute as that is. And if I thought that there was something else, then I'd be doing